There is an interesting thing in human psychology. No one is really afraid of being hated. People are only afraid of being unimportant. When someone hates us, at least they still care about us. But when they are indifferent, cold, when they treat us as if we do not exist, that is the deepest pain. And for many women, when the man they love no longer values them, that pain does not stop at the emotional level, but touches the deepest level of the ego. Am I worth it? From that question, a panic begins. I have met many women of different ages, from young girls in their first relationship to divorced women who have lived half their lives. They all have a common moment. The moment they realize that the man they love no longer looks at them with the same respect as before. At that point, they start messing with everything. They change their appearance, try to control their messages, demand attention, even torture themselves by comparing themselves to other women. And they call it loss of trust, but actually, deeper down, it's an ontological panic, the fear that they're no longer worthy of being loved. If we look deeply into psychology, we'll see every human being has a basic need to be recognized, to be seen, to be treated as a valuable individual. From an early age, a child learns that being loved equals being safe. When it cries, if its mother holds it feels that the world is still warm. But when it's left alone, the child learns another lesson. If I'm not noticed, I'll disappear. And as they grow up, women who are expected by society to be lovable, worth protecting, worth pursuing, increasingly tie their self-worth to being valued by men. It's an unconscious mechanism, not just a superficial behavior. So when a man no longer shows that he values them, their inner world begins to shake. They feel insecure, fearful, and controlling, but in reality, they're not trying to keep the man. They're trying to keep their sense of security. There's a harsh truth that few dare to face. Many women are not afraid of losing him. They're just afraid of losing themselves when he no longer validates their value. I once heard a middle-aged woman say, "I used to think that if he was cold, it was because he was busy. But then I realized, there are people who are busy all their lives but still make time for the people they value." There's a tragedy in that statement. We're willing to accept any explanation to protect the belief that we're still important. But when the other person really stops thinking about us, we have to face the truth that love is no longer a refuge, but a place to expose our own weaknesses. And this is where the panic begins. Women start to ask themselves, what did I do wrong? Where am I not good enough? Why did he change? They think that if they find the answer, they will get love back. But in reality, the question is not about actions, but about the underlying belief. I only have value when someone values me. It is a false belief, but it is deeply ingrained in the social consciousness, from fairy tales to romantic movies, where a woman is loved because she is worthy of love, not because she is herself. Meanwhile, men learn a different lesson. Love is not all I am. Society teaches them that they are recognized for their abilities, achievements, and status. So when they withdraw their attention from a woman, they don't feel like their world is falling apart. They just feel like they need to move on. But women, who have invested deeply in the relationship and see it as the center of their identity, feel like they've lost a part of themselves. It's not just a gender difference. It's a cognitive ontological difference. I once asked a young woman, Have you ever wondered why when a man doesn't value you, you don't feel normal but instead feel in crisis? She replied, because I feel like I'm not good enough. That answer made me think for a long time. Women don't just want to be loved. They want to be seen as something precious. When love is gone. Chat. A woman who had gone through a divorce said a very good sentence. It took me 10 years to understand that his silence said nothing about my worth. It sounded simple, but behind it was a journey of awakening, because for 10 years, she had struggled, tried every way to prove that she was worthy of love. But then, when she stopped and looked deep into herself, she understood. True respect does not come from others, but from how you treat yourself. When women panic about being disrespected, they often fall into two directions. Either blame themselves or fight back. One will tell themselves, I must not be good enough. The other will try to prove, you will regret disrespecting me. But both are reactions based on fear that they are no longer valuable. And that fear can only be healed when they realize value does not lie in the eyes of others, but in self-respect. Many people ask me, how can I not panic when a man disrespects me? My answer is always, don't try not to panic. Look at that panic and ask what it is protecting. Because what they fear most is not loneliness, but the feeling of being invisible. Love, according to existential philosophy, is a reflection of the ego. Jean-Paul Sartre once said, when we love, we want to be seen through the eyes of the other, but if that eye turns away, we suddenly lose the mirror in which we can see ourselves. That's why many women panic when men stop taking them seriously, because they've grown accustomed to seeing themselves through the way the other person looks at them. And when that gaze disappears, they don't know where to look anymore. Love is not wrong, but the way we define it makes people suffer. We live in an era where love becomes a test of self-worth. When the other person loves us, we feel valuable. When they are cold, we feel inferior. When they leave, we feel like our life has lost its direction. But in reality, a person's worth has never depended on the eyes of others. It lies in the ability to self-awareness, self-love, and stand firm even when no one is looking at us. I remember once, in a group, that panic is not bad. It is a signal of inner imbalance. It says that we have given too much of our self-definition to others. And when they withdraw, we lose our support. I once witnessed a woman overcome this very beautifully. After a long and painful love affair, she did not rush into a new relationship, did not seek to prove anything. She began to learn how to live alone again, eating alone, watching movies alone, traveling alone. At first, she felt empty, lonely, lost, but gradually, she felt something very strange, peace. She said, I realized, when I no longer need anyone to respect me, I truly respect myself. That saying, to me, is the definition of emotional maturity. When we no longer panic because others do not respect us, it means we have learned to see our own value without needing validation. And that is the pinnacle of emotional freedom. I am not saying that women do not need love. No, love is an essential part of being human. But love is not where we find self-worth, but where we share that value. When a person knows who they are, they no longer tremble when others do not see them the way they want. They do not need the other person to appreciate them to feel worthy. They only need to know for themselves, whether you see me or not, I am still me. And that is the awakening that very few people achieve. Because to get there, we have to go through the darkness, through panic, hurt, loss. But if we do not go through those things, we will always be in the zone of dependence. True love does not come from having someone value us, but from knowing how to value ourselves enough to not need anyone to validate us. And when we begin to understand that our own worth does not depend on the eyes of others, a very strange thing happens. We no longer need to be loved to feel enough, but begin to choose love as an act of freedom. But before reaching that freedom, women must go through a period of crisis, where all beliefs about love, about themselves, about value, are challenged. And the scary thing is, no one can help them get out, except themselves. I once talked to a young woman who had just broken up after 7 years of being together. She said that what hurt her was not that he left, but that he left without hesitation, as if I had never meant anything. That sentence resonated in me like a collective pain, because many women are not afraid of breaking up. They are afraid of feeling worthless. Deep down, people want to be seen as something special in the eyes of others. And when that is denied, the emotional survival instinct kicks in, causing a panic attack. If we look at it through the lens of psychotherapy, that reaction is a form of attachment reaction. People, especially those with an anxious attachment, often react strongly. When they feel the other person withdraws their attention, they start panicking, checking their phones, scrutinizing every text message, interpreting every gesture. They are trying to find a sign that they still matter. In fact, this is not because they are weak, but because they are subconsciously fighting for their sense of existence. From an existential philosophical perspective, love, in a sense, is how we are seen in this world. When the other person turns away, we feel like we are erased from the map. That's why indifference hurts so deeply. It's not just an action, but an invisible declaration that you're no longer worth my attention. And for someone without a solid foundation of self-esteem, that sentence resonates like a sentence. Modern society, though change, still instills a hidden message in women's minds. Your value lies in someone choosing you. From a young age, girls are praised for being pretty, good, popular, but rarely is anyone taught that, even if no one chooses them, they still have value, are still a complete person. So, when they grow up, many women still carry the belief that, if no one values me, it means I'm not good enough. They turn love into a mirror to reflect their own value, instead of a stream to share value. And that is the source of panic. I don't judge this. I understand, because I've seen too many people fall into that cycle. When men withdraw their attention, women start to lose themselves. They either try too hard, or they give up completely. But either way, they're acting out of fear. One tries to prove, you're wrong to underestimate me. The other tells herself, I'm worthless. Both forget the core. They already have value, whether others see it or not. Imagine if you stand in front of a diamond. Even if someone blindfolds you, it is still a diamond. Its brilliance does not depend on the gaze of others, but on its own structure. The same goes for humans. But we have forgotten that, because we are so used to living in a world of reflection, where the gaze of others becomes a mirror that confirms our existence. So, when men do not respect them, many women feel like the world has collapsed. Not because they have lost a man, but because they have lost the mirror that helps them see themselves. From there, they start to panic. But if we change our perspective, it is not the end, it is an opportunity to see ourselves for who we really are, not through anyone else's lens. I have witnessed many women who, after going through that panic, become radiant in a different way. Not the kind of brilliance that tries to prove itself, but the peaceful light of someone who knows who they are. A woman once told me, I used to think I would die when he left. But now, I realize, maybe I had to die to a dependent version, to be reborn as the real me. That sentence sounds light, but it contains the power of a rebirth. Love is not a place for us to lose ourselves. If someone does not respect us, it is not the end, but a mirror reflecting how much we respect ourselves. Many women often ask, "How do I make him respect me?" The answer, perhaps painful but true, is when you start to respect yourself. Those who are not worthy will automatically disappear, and those who are worthy will not dare to disrespect you anymore. Love does not require us to beg for respect, but requires us to have enough inner strength to not be shaken by disrespect. And that inner strength does not come from beauty, education, or status, but from awareness. The awakened person understands that no one can take away their value unless they give it away. When we know that, we no longer panic. I once read a passage in Erich Fromm's The Art of Loving, where he said, "Mature love is when we love, not because we need it, but because we have too much to share." The woman who no longer panics when she is looked down upon is the one who has reached that state, loving without depending, giving without needing to prove, staying without begging to be valued. But to get to that point, it takes a very long journey, a journey of looking back at ourselves, looking at the wounded children inside us. Every time we panic because someone does not value us, it is not the mature girl who reacts, but the child inside us, trembling, afraid of being left behind. And we need to sit down, hold that child's hand, and tell it, it's okay. Even if no one is looking, you still exist. You still deserve to be loved. When women learn to comfort themselves like this, they gradually heal. The panic subsides, giving way to serenity. They no longer need to chase after anyone. They know that true love is not a clinging, but a meeting between two souls who are already complete. A man who doesn't value them anymore doesn't hurt them, because they understand, he doesn't value me, because he's not deep enough to see my value. And that's no longer pain, but a gentle truth to let go. In fact, most of the hurt in love doesn't come from the other person's actions, but from how we interpret those actions. When he's silent, we think, he's bored with me. When he doesn't care, we think, I'm not attractive enough. But sometimes, he is just living in his own world, with his own shortcomings and limitations. We unintentionally turn their indifference into a measure of our own worth, and hurt ourselves. Therefore, the biggest lesson that women can learn when being looked down upon by men is not how to make him change, but how to stop being hurt by that disrespect. Because when we are no longer hurt, we have truly grown up. Not the insensitive type, but the type of person who knows, my worth cannot be defined by anyone. I once met a woman who had gone through 3 breakups, and she said something that I will never forget. I used to beg them to respect me, but now I thank them, because thanks to them, I learned to respect myself. That sentence can be considered the conclusion of all emotional journeys, because, in the end, the goal of love is not to find someone who always respects you, but to become a person who always respects yourself, no matter who you are with. Women do not panic because men look down on them. They panic because they have forgotten how worthy they are. But when they remember, when they stand up straight, when they know how to look at themselves with their own eyes, no one, no matter how much they turn their backs, how much they despise, how much they are indifferent, can shake them anymore. And then, a man's silence is no longer a knife, but a mirror that helps them look back, helps them grow up, helps them realize, you don't need to respect me. I respect myself enough.